Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me on today's episode of Women on Top, where I have the fantastic Rashi Narang, co founder of Heads Up for Tails, joining me. Um, so, Rashi had a fantastic journey from studying at the London School of Economics to working in a multinational bank. But it was her passion for pets that finally brought her to the entrepreneurial ground. And in 2008, she initiated a home based business called Heads Up for Tails, which supplies great quality products for all pet parents. And today, 13 years later, Heads Up for Tails operates 41 stores in 9 cities across India with a really strong online presence. And it's truly a one stop pet shop for quality products from food to accessories. And she's also just raised $50 million dollars between two rounds of two series of fundraising. And we're going to be talking a lot more about that. So, Rashi, thank you for joining me today and
Thank
welcome.
you so much. Thank you for having me here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
So, Rashi, of course, please take us through what made you take the plunge into entrepreneurship after were working as in banking.
Oh, well, it was a tiny little puppy named Sarah. Um, and she came to me, and I've had dogs all my life, Gauri, but she was the first one that I was responsible for. And I wanted her to live her best life, and I couldn't find the products I needed for, just everyday, simple, functional products also. And so I just decided to build them for her. And that's really how it all started. But that said, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I think I started that when I was really little. I'd be doing things all the time that were entrepreneurial, like organizing colony fates and events and selling cards door to door to collect money for Friendicos and other charities. And so I think, and I've also always been an animal person. So I think it wasn't planned, but it just came together in an amazing way for me.
This sounds very familiar because I think some of the best ideas in businesses actually come from a need that we have, ourselves. And that's kind of how I also got into the restaurant business. Although I had absolutely no background in hospitality, it came literally from a need to find a great place to dine for ourselves. So, I really do believe that some of the best ideas come from, things that we feel are a gap in our own lives. And
Absolutely. It's so nice to be able to see a white space and then decide to go fill it in some small way.
even if you have absolutely no background in that space.
I'm
But yeah,
in
I
that
mean,
camp too.
yeah,
So
but I think that what's great about it is that then you get to, it's literally a blank slate, and you get to create what your vision, and it doesn't have to be driven by sort of any previous experience necessarily. So I'm completely with you on that. Rashi, I want to sort of, I mean, we've obviously had an amazing journey so far, and of course, congratulations on the raise. It's truly like awe-inspiring. But I kind of want to deep dive a little bit into the ups and downs during the course of scaling up, and particularly about the biggest challenges that you faced, and how you learned from them, sort of how you picked up and kept going. And so yeah, please take us through some of that.
it's been a roller coaster of a journey. There have been so many downs and ups and more downs, and I think I've stumbled more times than I can possibly count, Corey. But there's been so much learning from that too. I think the biggest challenges for me personally when I started out was that I was um, I was accidentally entering into an extremely disorganized, very fragmented industry. Had to build the product and the supply chain from scratch. We had to build the retail experience from scratch, and then we added services and the whole spa. We had to build the customer and the awareness and the market really because the products that we were building and introducing were not available. So we just had to, like you said, make our own path. But it took a long time and it was very hard because there was no one to learn from, no references at all in place. We had to try lots of things and fail fast and try again and do better. So it has been only challenges and then
Yeah.
little sparks of little ups along the way, but and it still continues to be so. It is still niche. It is still difficult to there's a lot of people where mindsets still have to change, and we're working on a lot of not just product but also content, and community and events and other workshops and classes to be able to do that. How do you help your pet live their best life? There's so little that we know about them truly, and there's not enough people who take the time out yet to understand these amazing creatures who now are sharing not just our lives but our homes and sometimes even our beds. So
Mm.
it has been incredible. But I think despite all of those challenges and I think I've taken away so many interesting learnings, like being close to my customers and listening to them. I remember when I first started and I built out a product line and I took it to pet stores, there were more than 200 of them who showed me the door politely. But then I started to do pop-up exhibitions, and there the customer was super excited, asking me questions, and I realized that have to be close to them and have like one-to-one access and
Mhm.
really understand them, learn from them, get feedback. And so a lot of these products that we developed were all based on these empathy-led conversations. They were based on understanding pain points, understanding, how is it to live with a senior dog versus a puppy versus a kitten versus a dog that may be allergic to something, or a cat that may need something different to what was available. And that's really what helped us build something fresh that wasn't already there. So I think sometimes when, like they say, when a door closes and another one opens, it is true, because there were just so many rejections along the way, from
But
people, from yeah.
tell me a little bit as to why they were rejecting you. Like, what was the kind of, what did you, was there something that they didn't like about the product, or, and you mentioned that there were so many stores, right? So was it like, was there an existing market, or rather an existing supply, but just not of the kind of product that you sort of felt was needed? Was that what was different about what you were coming up with? And also, what was it about the product that you felt they didn't resonate with?
At that time, the product and the supply chain was extremely basic, very, very basic. There was barely anything. It was mostly food and some treats, but there was no focus on quality, on design, on real functionality, really. So I think that they couldn't quite resonate with the fact that there was design at the center of it, or just the fact that I realized that a lot of those people, they didn't have pets of their own. It was so transactional a business that they didn't really understand that end customer of theirs. They didn't understand the emotion of sharing their life with with an animal that you believe is family, or that feels family to you, or the joy that they bring into your life. They just didn't understand the emotion at all. So they couldn't understand why somebody would invest in buying a senior dog an orthopedic bed, or treats which don't have chemicals and preservatives, or a sustainability angle, or any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And also just yeah, I think those were the
No,
reasons
I
why.
mean, that makes sense. And again, I think it comes back to, your success. I genuinely feel like it comes back to that point that you just made, which is that when you genuinely create something out of a need that you yourself have, I mean, you have to be your first customer. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
that's really important, and believe in your own product before you can start sort of selling it to anybody else. So, I definitely think that that's a common learning that I share. But you mentioned that you started with pop-ups, and of course trying to retail through other stores, and you've got this. like incredible presence online, and of course now so many stores as well. So what came first? Was it the brick and mortar, or was it the e-commerce? And how did you sort of transition from one to the other, or go omni-channel? And at what point in your in the journey did you go sort of omni-channel?
We actually started with online. We were so small, we didn't have any
Interesting.
funds. So back in 2008, I had a school student in class 10 make me a website for 5,000 rupees. and, and
Wow.
honestly, I remember when I'd get like even 3 or 4 orders a month, I was jumping in
It's
joy
like,
because there was
ooh, yeah.
somebody in some remote part of the country, or in a Vishakhapatnam or a Chennai or an Agra, who had found my website and actually ordered, and it was such a great feeling. But we realized early on that because the customer wasn't aware about these products, they were not going to look for them, and we had to enable discovery. So we started with offline, took up a little kiosk like you mentioned, just in a busy mall, which was Select City, and it was very popular when it had just opened. And so the discovery started. People were like, oh my god, I didn't know we could buy XYZ, or a product or a toy, or a jacket, or any of the products that we had. So that was really exciting. And then we realized that there's a lot more need for discovery, and we have to be able to focus on the retail side of it, to allow people to come in and really find and share and connect and touch and feel the products. So they'd come in asking for a bag of food, but we'd be able to have a conversation, understand just about their pets, pain points, help with recommendations. And that's honestly been my favorite part, just connecting with lots of pets and their families and seeing them grow through the years. So, yes, we
I can
did. And then,
imagine.
yeah, and then, when the pandemic hit,
Mm.
then again we focused, while we always had the online piece, we went back into focusing on that big and strong. And really in the last 1.5 years, we've worked so much on the back end, on the supply chain, on the logistics, the warehousing, hiring for tech, and building customer care. And there's so much that goes on an e-com site that isn't quite easily visible to the eye. And sometimes I feel like retail is a little bit easier, maybe in so many ways. But yes, that's what we've been doing, and really also building a lot of content, like I mentioned, so that if you're a pet parent and you want to do better by your pets, there's some place for you to come and learn. So heaps more coming there as well.
Amazing. So, can you give us an idea of what the split is between the revenue of like a delivery, I mean, online versus physical retail, like just
Yeah.
in maybe pre-COVID and what it is today?
Yes, pre-COVID it was 70% retail and 30% offline. Now
Wow.
it's 60% retail and 40% online, and I think that it will be 50-50 quite soon,
Yeah.
in the
No, I
next
can I
year.
can understand that, and I actually I totally again sort of resonate with the idea of wanting to shop in a physical sort of with the physical product. I'm in spite of us all kind of our whole lives sort of becoming digitally accelerated in the last sort of 18 months. I still think that there's nothing that beats like being able to go into buy clothes which you've tried on, or in your case, pet accessories, etc. And just being able to sort of touch, feel, look, and pick something. I mean, I think there's a whole different joy in that. But it's really interesting that you started with the e-commerce and then felt the need to have this physical presence. But of course, during the last 18 months, like I said, digital has taken over our lives, and there is definitely a bigger move, sort of a larger move towards that. We're seeing that in our industry, of course, between
Yes.
dine-in and delivery. But tell me, obviously, when it comes to e-commerce, what I've learned, as we've had to also kind of become digitally more savvy, which I never thought I would need to in a restaurant business,
Yeah.
is that there's so much investment that's required in the marketing, right?
Yeah.
Because you share digital space with like millions of brands,
Yeah.
and today there's a lot of cross-border sort of purchasing happening as well. Of course, subject to price parity. But can you give us an idea of how you're going about the sort of marketing aspect of building the brand digitally, and recognizing that people are online a lot more than they are offline maybe, and like you said, you're moving towards a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Are you having to invest more on the sort of e-commerce aspect in terms of marketing and branding?
Yes, definitely. Honestly, we haven't done a whole lot now. A lot of our traction has been organic on social media. We definitely have invested a little bit in performance marketing, so Google ads, Facebook ads, but nothing substantial. But I think that needs to change. We need to be able to reach more people, widen the top of
Mhm.
funnel, build a lot more awareness. And so we're thinking about really how do we reach that digital customer, because they are so different from the
Absolutely.
offline customer. We find that the offline customer, we have a real connect with them. We know them, we know their dogs, we know their preferences, we greet them by name so many times, and they're a lot more loyal. And the digital side, we feel people are really like, they want the convenience, they want the
Mhm.
pricing, they want the massive variety of catalog. And so they are
Mhm.
really very different people, truly, or personas, or whatever you want to call them. And so understanding them and then solving for them and building customer journeys, that okay, if it's XYZ person looking for that, how is it for them versus somebody else who needs something completely different. And solving for, I mean, even creating performance ads and digital content is, it's not easy, and yet you need to do so much of it. Like a social media post is going out every single day, and there are stories and
Mhm.
now reels, and there's so much. So I think for us it's about really just trying to connect with that audience, giving them value in some way or the other, whether it's how to, or helping them learn a little bit more about their pets, or in any way connecting them to a larger community, or helping, how do you add value really. And I think that's the kind of digital content that's going to, or digital marketing that's going to work in the long run. Because it's just like you said, there's so many people that we're competing with, and there is only so much bandwidth that all of us have to be able to take something in. So we are sitting on those questions every day and saying, okay, how do we really do this well. Also, I think just being authentic and telling your story, or talking about why you made a certain product, or what you believe in, and how you're looking at the world, that helps. Like, it just brings a lot of individuality, it brings the human element to it. And I think that's what we've been doing for a long time, and that's how we want to continue to build it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think people want to connect with a brand. It's no longer just transactional,
Yeah.
and I think authenticity goes a long way in that. And you've kind of answered partly what I wanted to ask you next, because you've received Brand of the Year at the prestigious World Branding Awards Animal Edition for two consecutive years. Sorry. So I mean, what according to you are the top things to keep in mind to build a brand? I mean, you've mentioned already connecting with your customer, and authenticity in that communication. So is there anything else that you feel has contributed to your success in creating a strong brand?
I don't come from a trained brand background, but honestly, I just keep thinking about what do I want to see on the other side. And
Mm.
I connect the best when I feel like there is somebody on behind that brand that I connect with. So we put out our values, our mission, our thoughts, and our ideas out there. And I think at the end of it all, we just build not just for the human customer, but we've also kept the pets at the center of it all.
Hmm.
And that's hard because our customer is different from our end user. Right. and,
Sure.
and that's a whole different challenge to solve for. But really, I think we've spent a lot of time very deeply connecting with our consumers, and being very open to feedback, whether it was
Mhm.
good and a lot of it not so good, whether it was on logistics or packaging or timelines or even a product. Very open to getting that feedback, taking it to the table, saying, okay, how do we get better at this? What do we do next? How do we um, how do we solve and make this just better for our customer, both the consumer and the actual buying customer, and just evolving from that. So I don't think that there are any real secrets to brand building. I think it's just about you being you, not trying to be someone else, authenticity like we spoke about, and not being afraid to put your thoughts out there, no matter how different they may be from other people. And of course, you'll have trolls, and of course, you'll have critics. But that's okay. I think we're not trying to solve to make everybody happy, because we can't. Nobody can.
Yeah.
So just
No,
hope to
and
build
I
on
think
that.
that, again, I really, I mean, I totally connect with everything you're saying. And I think that, a really important learning that I've also had is that you can't keep looking over your shoulders to what everyone else is doing. And you just need to focus on what your vision is for your brand. And just keep working at it. And, I mean, we started our sort of hospitality business around the same time as you, and sometimes it just requires that perseverance to keep going at it, even if it doesn't always happen to your sort of timetable. So I want to talk a little bit. I mean, this is incredible that you've had this you've raised $50 million between your pre-Series A and Series A. I mean, that's really, really awe-inspiring, like I said,
Yeah.
and congratulations again.
Thank
Take us through that a little bit. How that sort of process was, and you've done this race during the worst time of everyone's life, in the middle of a lockdown and a pandemic. So how did that kind of process start? And also, it's been 13 years. Normally, my understanding is that with e-commerce businesses, that process starts a lot earlier in the journey.
Yes.
So, how did waiting this long help or not help you? And why did you sort of decide at this point, rather than, even 3, 4, 5 years ago, to start that process?
Sure. Happy to walk you through it. Um, it's been exciting, first of all.
I can
And
imagine.
so we got investor interest quite early on in the journey, but we were really focused on getting the product market fit and understanding if this is deep enough. Are we getting it right or not? And so for 8 years we stayed bootstrapped, just building on product, supply chain, customer awareness, all of that stuff. Also, I was living overseas, and with my husband, he got transferred with work, and it just was not the right time. But we moved back in 2015 end, and 2016 we raised a small round from family offices and some HNIs, just to see, and really take things to the next level. And then through the years, we have taken smaller rounds again from the similar pool of investors, and we were very clear about the fact that we needed people who really resonate with our value system. So there were those three questions that we always asked. When should you raise money? And it's really at a time when you feel confident and you have a very clear agenda of what you need to do with that money, and why are you raising it, and who are you raising it from? And that who is just the most important, because I've seen it go so wrong with several founders and several companies, where the investor just has a very different in different sort of
Motivation. Yeah.
endpoint motivation, and it just goes spiraling down. So we've been very careful with that. And then we had been talking to Sequoia for the last 2 years, and we said, no, we're not ready for a Series A, for the VCs to come in. But I think now, after building what we have, we've really been focusing on building that very strong foundation, fixing, and we're ready to go all out and scale what we've built. So it also came from that confidence of having done it before, and also just knowing that we've got great partners and then Whirl Invest came in, and just earlier this year as well, and it just happened really quickly. But the whole pandemic and the lockdowns and just trying to do everything over Zoom and due diligence and all of that took forever and ever and ever. So it took like 5 6 months for us to really have it all in place, and then raise. So
Well,
it's been exciting, but there's so much responsibility that comes with funds. You have to, it's somebody else's money that you're responsible for. You really need to be careful on how you're using it. I know that it's all about how much you're burning and all of
mm,
it's really about who's burning more rather than who's making a profit. And I think we want to be able to balance that and create something that is truly sustainable. So our model and the kind of people that we are and the team that we are, we're not just going to go all out and just mindlessly throw it
slow.
around. We want to be very, very careful about how we use it, how we spend it, and how we grow things. Also, because this is so passion led, and sometimes when you scale too fast, you can lose a lot of the soul,
Mhm.
and that's not something that we want to do. So there's that's investments that have come in, and I hope that we can all just see it through.
Are you allowed to tell us a little bit about what's sort of planned in the short term, short to medium
Yes,
term?
of course, we're looking at hiring more people, hiring better talent, working a lot on sort of technology and more omni-channel tech. We're working on building an app. We're working on creating a lot of content. We're trying to, of course, scale up the product piece. A lot of innovation. We have a R&D lab, so there's heaps going on, and we want to spend more on research and development of new products, and of course new stores and the whole online piece. So
Mhm.
lots of things in the pipeline.
Well, it looks like it's going to be very busy for you. But just coming back to the investors, my understanding is that when it comes to raising investment, it's as much about, investors sort of interviewing a brand and sussing out a brand and, vetting a brand as it is about, the founders and the entrepreneurs finding the right fit, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, right? So, what were some of the parameters for you when you were, like when you were sort of evaluating whether it was the family offices and the HNIs or whether it was, the VCs? How did you evaluate the right fit for for your business?
For me personally, it was about finding people who believed and understood our long-term vision, um, and were in it for a slightly longer term, and they didn't want quick exits. At least when we were raising the initial rounds, and we really wanted that faith that they are there with us, and this may go anyway,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily the good way. And so I think knowing that, and also people who were passionate about pets, who wanted to make that impact, who wanted to make that difference, who wanted to change that landscape, and were willing to bet on it. This wasn't a conventional business. There was no one to learn from. There weren't any, even now there's very little data available. Market reports and research has not been really conducted. So we didn't have like solid business plans to present, because there was nothing there. It was a lot of guesswork and a lot of gut work. So and it's still, I mean, in some ways it still is, because it is still very niche. It is still very small. It's growing definitely, but I think you need to feel it with someone. I don't know if that makes sense, but you need to just intuitively feel the connect and know that it's right. Actually, sometimes you won't even know if it's right, but I think you'll know if it's wrong,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then you just walk away. And we did that too with a couple of people.
That
So
that's amazing. I mean, that sort of strength to walk away when you're having sort of money thrown at you, I'm sure takes a lot of courage. So,
it was difficult, and I remember crying, but I'm so glad in hindsight I did it.
amazing. So, tell me about the Heads Up for Tails Foundation and what inspired you to start that.
So Gauri, I've been a animal person always, and even with Heads Up for Tails, we realized that, ever since the beginning, we've been doing everything that we could in small ways and big ways to help our streeties and urban animals, primarily dogs, because that's where we see the most amount of human animal conflict, whether it's bites or abuse or cruelty. Um, and now recently even cats, because their population has really exploded in the last couple of years. And I think, and to formalize what we were doing, and give it a little bit more attention, and more resources, we created the foundation. And our main aim is really education, because we realize that you start to care about something when you understand it. Otherwise, you just don't. And what we wanted to do and have been doing is really trying to change mindsets, helping people understand that the planet is a shared resource. The street is on the road, that is their home. It's not just ours. And just enabling and facilitating, that to be more peaceful, whether it's through vaccination drive, so you feel secure that, okay, the dogs outside are have their rabies injection, so even if there's a bite, it's not so dangerous. Or helping with adoptions, we do a lot of adoption camps at our stores, or sterilization, so that the numbers don't keep increasing. Workshops around communications. Our animals are always speaking to us, but we don't really know how to understand that. So, what kind of calming signals are they giving us? What are they saying? Understanding their body language. Lots of things. We started to go into schools, into slum areas. Unfortunately, the physical side of it took a big hit when the pandemic hit, but we've just been focusing on that education, and there's a lot more that we want to do, and that we have plans for. But whatever we can, and honestly, we don't talk about it very much. It's not done from a marketing perspective. It's just really, we owe it to them, to take care of them. We've given out heaps of food bags, like in the many lakhs, and we send them out with our orders. And reflective collar drives, so that dogs get hit at night when they're not seen. Sometimes they're speeding traffic, so the reflective collar helps an oncoming car to be able to see them. So there's lots of little projects that are on, and we hope that we can bring lots of people together, and really do this, because our indies are really, really special, and we hope to be able to help more people open their minds and their hearts and their homes to this incredible Indian breed, which is resilient and amazing with families, and they're just awesome. So we're hoping that we can shift the mindset a little bit, and not have them on the streets. And in
I
fact,
completely I agree with you about indies. So we have two of them in our farm in Alibag, and my daughter was sort of insistent on getting a puppy, as most kids are. And I think a lot of people during the lockdown actually have adopted pets. Especially in the last year and a half. And so we said, okay, the only pets that we're gonna be bringing in are indies, and so there were our neighbors had puppies, and so we've yeah,
amazing.
and the way
Wow.
we wanted to have them in Alibag because we just felt they need space, and
Yes,
they have plenty of that there. So
that's wonderful. That's
yeah.
wonderful. I think for me, I just want to be able to put them on that list of breeds. When you're thinking about what dog can I bring home, I want that to be an option, because you're bringing home a puppy or a pet or a kitten for companionship, for loyalty, for love. Our indies are so on top when it comes to all of that. It's
Totally.
not like there is a breed that loves less, or more. They're all just amazing. So, really hope that we can make that change little by little.
And the funny thing is, a lot of them are crossbred, right? Because they're
Yes,
stray, and so some of them just they grow up and they grow to be so beautiful, and you're like, I think this one was like crossbred with a a golden retriever or something like this.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I completely endorse endorse sort of adopting indies as well. Um, Rashi, I mean, this is sort of a double-edged question, but anything particular that you've experienced being a woman entrepreneur as opposed to just an entrepreneur? And I know I get asked that a lot, and I'm like, well, I don't know what it's like to be a male entrepreneur. But anything that you'd like to share, with the audience, or just about things from that perspective.
Yes, actually, I agree with you. I don't know what it feels like to be a non-woman entrepreneur, but I feel that there is still a lot that society needs to open up to and provide support when it comes to women. It is just understood that the man will go to work every day and everything revolves around that. But when it comes to women, it's been really hard for me raising a child. Haft is like my first baby too. It is a full-time job, and then being managing your home and trying to be everything for everyone and at all places at all times. So I think that I would love if people start thinking about, at least the men and other women start thinking about, how can that support system be wider and larger and bigger. And yeah, I mean, we need people to help us fulfill our dreams, and it's okay to want to be more than just a homemaker or just a mother or just a wife. And I really feel that we need more cheerleaders for that. So I've struggled with that many times, and just bringing it here.
Well, I mean, you're being an incredible role model. So I'm glad you stuck it out and got through all of it. So thank you again for making the time to be with us today and sharing your story and hopefully we get to meet in person very soon.
I would love that. And thank you so much for having me here.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.